Hey everybody, Ben for the Better Podcast, and welcome to Blood Bowl 2025 Team Guides. We are going through every team in Season 3 and looking at their players, looking at the changes, and looking at the roster you can run by going to a shop and picking up a box of them. Now today we've got a team that I am very eager to get back to the pitch as soon as possible. They've got upgraded and they were already terrifying. It's the Lizardmen team. So full disclosure, I hate playing against Lizardmen because in the old edition, I felt they were a very bad matchup for Skaven. Now, Skaven have changed, Lizardmen have changed, and as far as I can tell, they're a little bit scarier now, which is interesting and potent. They're a little scarier, but there's a couple of things that have changed that doesn't gel. Anyway, right, Lizardmen to the team. 0 to 8 rerolls, where's my book? 70k a reroll. Tier 1 tiers only mean anything if you're going for tournaments, and the tournament you're going to will potentially have a different tiering for them anyway, but I think tier 1 is probably about right for Lizards in this edition. They are looking pretty good. Now so far we're kind of looking at this with the view of League, but I think the Lizards, yeah, I think they're all right, guys. I think if you're a Lizardman coach, you're probably okay. So, special rules, they have Illustrian Super League, which affects which star players they can take, and they can take an apothecary. You might want an apothecary. You got a lot of dudes. So, this roster, you've got 0 to 16 Skink Linemen. Skink Linemen, they're movement 8 goblins. They're just movement 8 goblins. I love them. They are basically fragile gutter runners. They're just, yeah, skinks are wicked. Then you've got 0 to 2 chameleon skinks. Now this is an interesting positional. 1 less movement than a standard skink, a bit more expensive than a standard skink, but dodge on the ball and shadowing as well as stunty. So on the ball gives you a few extra squares if your opponent makes a passing action and or on the kickoff. So having 1 as a ball caddy is actually quite useful. And shadowing just got much better in this edition, being that it works on a 4+. That is it. It just works on a 4+. Now the chameleon skink with movement 7 had a pretty good chance for that to prop anyway, so 4+ is good. It's just one of those things where, do I want my strength 2 stunty piece marking you? Well, you know what? Sometimes I'm going to want that. Sometimes I'm going to want to present that opportunity, and shadowing just means on a 4+, I can make it happen again and again. Then you've got 0 to 6 Saurus blockers. So, yeah, movement 6, strength 4, edge 5+ isn't great, but movement 6, strength 4, this is why I'm like dirty. You got movement 8 goblins in the skinks, you got movement 6 black orcs when it comes to the Sauruses. Now, they even have a combat skill now, so in this edition they've been given the Juggernaut skill. Now, this is an interesting one. It's going to be helpful, but only once per turn, which is why I don't think it's actually egregious. Basically, Juggernaut means that when you blitz with a Juggernaut player, you can turn those, if you roll a both down, you can turn it into a push. You just treat it as a push. It also turns off stand firm. So it's one of those, it's going to be helpful on a blitz action, which also means you don't need to worry about leveling up your sources to blitz straight away, which means in game 1, they got a bit better. Now, they are unsteady, and the whole shtick about this edition is that there is a special ability now, an action you can choose called Secure the Ball, and with movement 6, it would have been great. Move up, pick up the ball on a 2+, but they've got unsteady, which means they have to do it the old school way, and at 5+, that's going to be a risky one. The Saurus is only going to get the ball when he randomly spikes a 6 on a catch for a random bouncing ball. That's how it always was, and that's basically stayed the same. And talking of great things that have stayed the same, you still have 0 to 1 Croxagore, who is arguably one of the best big guys in the game. Okay, so let's get into the positionals. We've got this skink lineman. He's a skink lineman. Yeah, he's a lineman, which is very, very, very good. All right, so the skink positional is brilliant. Movement 8 is very, very, very fast. Strength 2 is vulnerable. Edge 3+ is good. Passing 4+ is really useful. And armor 8+ is fine. Combo that with dodge and stunty at 60k, you get a bargain of a player. Movement 8 is very fast for any player, especially when you've got a stunty dodge piece here with edge 3+. Now what that means is that this guy, because he's got dodge, is going to get a reroll to the the dodge test, and stunty means he ignores modifiers for tackle zones. Still has to roll for them, but ignores modifiers. So this guy is 3++, basically anywhere he wants to go. So 8 squares is fast. 8 squares basically in a straight line is phenomenally fast, and the fact that these guys have got agility access means that if you so wish to develop your skink lineman up the way, you've got a whole bunch of cool stuff you can do with him. Sprint, now he's movement 11, sure feet, he's still, you know, though he's always movement 10. Sidestep is going to be really good too. Now the only thing to watch with your skinks is, even though they are armor 8+ and strength 2 and they've got stunty, no, none of that was defensive. They are vulnerable, right? Dodge is good. Movement 8 means they can keep out of trouble in theory, but they are going to get hit. And on this team, you're not going to have a huge amount of skinks. You're not going to have a huge amount of skinks on the pitch, and your opponent is going to do absolutely everything they can to get them removed, and they are very removable. So when it comes to the skink, they're not the most resilient piece. So they are fast. I've never really been bothered about upgrading my skinks too much because they tend to die. They've got the access to hit and run now, which could be potentially useful. But otherwise, there's nothing in there that I'd be absolutely gagging to put on a skink. So it's an interesting one. You can save up. Now it's 10 SPP for a secondary skill, and that's when it gets good, but there are no random secondaries anymore. So the skink can no longer randomly roll into block at 6 SPP. You got to wait till 10 SPP, but you can just pick it. And actually, I think if a skink makes it to 10 SPP, he's kind of earned block. But then you get to 10 SPP and you're like, wow, my skink has made it really far. 14 SPP is a stat up. And I really do like the idea of a movement 9 skink. That's when it starts getting particularly potent. However, saving up all that way to get a double skill, a secondary skill, or saving up all that way to get a stat up is a long way for a skink. Quite frankly, the first one gets a bit of sidestep so you can pull off some shenanigans, gets a bit of sure feet or sprint so you can really push your luck. And at that point, you just consider yourself lucky because you're already a Lizardman coach. But if you like your skinks with an upside and a downside, you've got the chameleon skink to choose from. So, same stat line with 2 exceptions. Movement 7, a little bit slower than a standard skink. Passing 3+, a little bit better at throwing than a standard skink. So it's a really cool positional that they added in, was it 2020 or was it 2016? This is rocked up. But basically you've got like a little quarterback skink. Now, he's got passing access, so you can brew him up to be a thrower. However, 70k means he's actually more expensive than a standard skink. Dodge, stunty works the same way, a little bit slower. It's quite interesting. You will feel the difference between movement 7 and movement 8. Movement 8 is chef's kiss. Movement 7 is fast. Fast is okay. This guy does have on the ball, so when you are receiving the ball, he's movement 10 for that first turn. And that can be really, really, really fun. I do recommend a chameleon skink because that on the ball can be really useful for collecting the ball to start with. You've got that passing 3+, so you do have an option. And remember, all of your skinks do have access to agility, so you can, in theory, run a couple of catch skinks who are going to be the ones handing off or receiving the handoff or receiving a pass. This guy also having access to shadowing means that when things get bad, you can chuck your chameleon on a target runner. Who is going to get the ball? I'm going to put my shadowing guy on them. Maybe on a 4+, they'll have to keep dodging away. It's just that extra opportunity. That, for me, makes the chameleon skink a little bit split role, because if I'm going to brew up a chameleon skink, I've got agility and passing, so if I want to go, do you know what? I'm going to have a quarterback skink. I'm going to give him accurate, so he's passing 2+ and movement 7, and I can do stuff. Last thing you want to do is just go put him next to dudes who are going to punch him in the face. But there are some other cool things you can do, and there's some interesting stuff in there with the agility and passing skills. And then again, everything we said about the skink before is possible. You can save up to 10 SPP, but because this guy does have passing access, you do have an opportunity to brew up a little hero of a player. It is suboptimal, but I think it's going to be quite entertaining. There is nothing suboptimal about these pieces, the Saurus blockers. You get 6 of them, and by Nuffle, you do your best to take 6 of them as soon as you can. Movement 6 is very fast for a strength 4 piece. Edge 5+ means that when they're tagged, they're not going anywhere, he says. We'll come back to that. Passing 6+ is great because it means that now they actually can throw. So if they do end up with the ball, you do have that chance for the hero ball, which I love. Armor 10+ is tough as heck. 90k, they've gone up. but they're still a bargain. Juggernaut, we talked about this. These guys can now blitz and turn a both down into a push, which is going to trigger and override stand firm, override wrestle, and something else. Can't remember which one it overrides. And they've got unsteady, which we've already talked about as well. What does Juggernaut override? I've looked at this. H-I-J-K. There we go. Stand firm, wrestle, and fend. There you go. Stand firm's going to come up. Wrestle's going to come up. Fend, basically nobility. Right, the Saurus blocker. What does every blocker dream of? What does every blocker go to bed thinking about? Waking up with the block skill, absolutely. Now, the cool thing here is they've got strength access. So, break tackle is a skill that's back in this edition that gives you +1 to dodge. It gives you +2 if you're strength 4, and it gives you +3 if you're strength 5. So, this guy can get break tackle, which will give him a dodge a turn at 3+. It's still not very good. So the Saurus blocker, you're kind of going to be probably leaning on the fact they can get block very quickly. Say very quickly. Like 6 SPP. You can take a random general at 3 SPP, which is going to give you 2 die roll shots at taking it. It's an interesting one. I probably would say just be patient. These guys are armor 10+ and strength 4. They're not really going anywhere anytime soon, so you can wait to get that block. And it's a tough one because actually this team can be really boring in the way of team development, because block and guard on 6 Saurus blockers is filthy. And do you know what? It's filthy because it's good. Boo. All right, then you've got the Kroxigor. I love the Crocs. Movement 6 and strength 5. Such a wonderful combination of skills. Edge 5+. Not the fastest, but when it comes to a big guy, you kind of expect that. Passing 6+, he can now make a throw. Armor 10+ means he's invincible for the most part. 140k is 140k. Blech, cheap as chips. Bonehead is the best of the nega traits. Loner 4+ is going to hurt you sometimes, but it's okay. Mighty Blow. Mighty Blow, strength 5, is just going to mean this Kroxigor is going to eat. Literally, Jurassic Park man on toilet is going to eat. Mighty Blow is just going to be so effective. Strength 5 is going to mean you can put in the blocks. And the great thing about this team is you're going to develop a couple of guard pieces. You're going to develop the ability to move people around to get you supports. So you should be able to 3-die block a lot of the time with your Kroxigor, which is going to make up for the fact that he's got that loner, and it's going to be able to capitalize on Mighty Blow. He's also got Thick Skull, so he's sticking around. Now, Prehensile Tail is wicked, and this is what I love about the Crocs and the Rat Ogre. Movement 6. He's fast enough to get to where you want him to be. Strength 5 means that when you put him there, he's going to be hard to shift away. And Prehensile Tail is going to give your opponent -1 to dodge away, which is basically horrible. And I guess this is why I have so much annoyance about playing against them with Skaven, because the Kroxigor has a tendency to be able to get to where he needs to be, and then that -1 takes your 2+ dodge away to a 3+ dodge away, which becomes a bit of a problem. When an opposition player attempts to dodge, jump, or leap away from this square, from a square in this player's tackle zone, they apply -1. Only works once. So if you've got 2 Prehensile Tail guys on a dude, it only triggers once, but it's always triggering. And it's always triggering. The Kroxigor is an excellent big guy, and as far as running the lizards, he's just too much fun to leave at home. Yes, he's got Bonehead. Yes, he's got Loner 4+, so sometimes he's going to hurt you, but I promise you, more times than not, he's going to hurt your opponent first. Okay, so you're like, oh, I love Lizardmen. I went to Games Workshop and picked up a box. It's a great box. The lizards are brilliant. It's one of my favourite Games Workshop teams. The Chameleon Skinks look cool. The Skinks are great. The Saurus blockers are just solid as you like. There's no Kroxigor on this list because you have to buy him separately. So if you were to buy one box from Games Workshop, this is what it would look like. You would get all 6 of those Saurus blockers. You'd get 4 Skink linemen for that speedy, and you get 1 Chameleon Skink to just make the most of that on the ball. And on the ball can come in clutch when your opponent makes a passing action. In this edition, there's no wildly inaccurate, which means your opponents are more likely to take a throw. And there's no deflection roll, so getting that Chameleon Skink in the way of the ball can mean you actually have a much better chance at literally just taking that ball away and or putting an extra tackle zone on whoever's throwing or receiving the ball. It's quite useful. 2 rerolls is probably about as good as it's going to get for lizards. Is that right? Yeah, and that comes in at 990. So this is what you want to do if you don't have a Kroxigor. I do really like Kroxigor for lizards. Like, it's one of the ones, I know we've got the Nurgle roster coming out, and looking at the Nurgle roster, you're like, yeah, you really want the Rotspawn. The Kroxigor is a fantastic player, but he is expensive, and in theory, he is going to cost you quite a lot of stuff. And fitting him into your starting roster is going to be quite challenging. I think not only do you need a Kroxigor, but you need a couple of extra skinks as well, or you start with one reroll. And one reroll is pretty risky. So 1 million, you have 6 skinks, 4 blockers, and a Kroxigor with 2 rerolls. That is probably the optimal build to start playing in a league. But if you just go out and pick up a Lizardman team, you are going to experience the might of 6 of those strength 4 dudes and the cheeky shenanigans of the skink lineman. So not a bad roster to start playing with. Okay, so that wraps up Lizardmen. Juggernaut is good. I think overall this team got a little bit better, but they are a little bit more expensive now. Can you hear the sound of the smallest violin? Basically, you're going to get a Crocs, 6 blockers and some skinks quite quickly. But not immediately. You have that trade-off of, do I want 6 blockers or 4 blockers and a Kroxigor? And actually, that's a fair trade-off when you're backed up by those movement 8 goblins, basically, with the skinks. I really do like it. This roster is pretty fierce, and that Juggernaut on the blocker just makes your blitz every turn a little bit more reliable. And at strength 4 and movement 6, it's going to be able to get where you need it to go, or your opponent's going to have to base their strength 4 blockers and just get pounded. It is a really good fun roster, and I cannot wait to show it off on the channel. I don't know if we're going to be able to. Ben's got the roster, Ben's got the team, and he's in Japan, so I don't know if we're going to be able to get a live stream in before we start filming the championship, but Lizards are good in this edition. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below, and we'll be back soon with more Bible content. Happy blocking.